Of course. Here's key point 1 expanded into 750 words as if spoken in a seamless, flowing, conversational style, in the preaching yet poetic cadence characteristic of Sarah Jakes Roberts, but without mentioning her name, while staying aligned with the other key points and the speech's theme. No headings, just the natural rhythm of a speech, concluding with a strong closing line for impact. My friends, the morning is a mystery. It's easy to think of it as just the beginning of a routine, the alarm blaring, the coffee dripping, the news chattering from the television, the scroll of headlines and social media feeds waiting to pull you into 1,000 stories that have nothing to do with your purpose. But what if I told you the morning is so much more than that? The morning is a threshold. It's that sacred space between what was and what's yet to come. It's like standing in a doorway between two rooms, behind you the darkness of night, ahead of you the bright unknown of a brand new day. And how you step over that threshold will often decide how you walk through the hours that follow. See, the world will tell you that your morning is about productivity, about hustling, about getting ahead, but God whispers something else in the stillness. God says, this moment right here, this first breath, this first thought is where I want to meet you. Because there's something about the hush before the world wakes up that makes room for you to hear your own soul. In that silence, you can hear the echoes of what's been weighing you down, the thoughts you buried the day before, the worries you tried to silence with busyness, the fear that you'll never be enough, that you'll never overcome what you're facing. And the enemy would love nothing more than for you to start your day in that place of panic. He'd love for your first thought to be anxiety, for your first feeling to be dread, for your first breath to be shallow, tight in your chest, because if he can steal your morning, he can often steal your day. But what I've learned is that when you give God the start of your day, you reclaim the threshold. You stand at that doorway and say, before I walk into the noise, before I scroll through the chaos, before I answer the calls and carry the weight of everybody else's needs, I'm going to give this moment to you, God. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be sitting in the dark, just whispering, God, I'm here. It could be lifting your hands while the coffee brews, saying, thank you for another chance. It could be reading a single line of scripture, letting it echo in your spirit until it feels like strength in your bones. Because when you give God the start of your day, you're not just checking off a religious box, you're shaping your perspective. You're declaring that the deepest truth about your life is not your schedule or your stress or your emotions, but your connection to the one who holds the universe together. It's like tuning an instrument. If you don't tune a guitar before you play it, it'll make noise, but it won't make music. And some of us have been living noisy lives because we skip the tuning. We rush past the quiet moments where God could have adjusted our spirit, aligned our thoughts, reminded us who we are. And then we wonder why everything sounds off key. So many of our negative feelings, the fear, the sadness, the anger, feel bigger than they have to be because we've never paused long enough at the threshold to invite God in. We're trying to walk into the day carrying yesterday's weight, yesterday's wounds, yesterday's words that somebody spoke over us. And God is saying, before you carry all that, come sit with me. Let me remind you that you are loved, that you are chosen, that you are not your mistakes, that today is a new canvas and we can't paint something beautiful on it together, because that's the power of giving God the start of your day. It shifts the whole canvas. Suddenly, what felt impossible looks possible. What felt heavy feels lighter. What felt chaotic finds a rhythm. And the negative feelings that once tried to take up residence in your spirit start to lose their grip. Because the morning becomes a place where you hand over your burdens and receive peace in return. So I came to tell somebody tonight, don't let your morning slip away unnoticed. Don't let the enemy steal your threshold. Stand at the doorway of your day and say, God, before I go anywhere else, I'm coming to you. Because the way you cross that threshold can change everything. Let God meet you at the door and watch how the whole house of your day starts to glow with His light. That's how you begin to overcome what's been trying to overcome you. And that's how you give God the start of your day. Of course. Here's key point 2 expanded into 750 words, seamlessly flowing in the same speech style, with a warm, passionate, storytelling cadence reminiscent of Sarah Jakes Roberts, but not mentioning her name. No headings, just the natural rhythm of a spoken message, ending with a powerful closing line. My friends, let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Negative feelings don't just appear out of nowhere. They grow in the places where we try too hard to control what's beyond our grasp. They thrive in the soil of our clenched fists, our tight hearts, our constant striving to make life fit into our expectations. And sometimes the very reason we feel so heavy is because we're holding on so tight. We're holding on to the fear that we're not enough. Holding on to the guilt of mistakes we made years ago. Holding on to the shame that whispers that if people knew the real us, they'd walk away. Holding on to the bitterness of how someone hurt us. Holding on to the disappointment that life didn't turn out the way we planned. But here's the paradox. The tighter we hold on, the more we suffer. And yet God is calling us to do the very thing that feels impossible when we're hurting. Let go. Because when you let go, you make room to let God in. See, we think we're protecting ourselves by holding on. We think if we keep replaying that conversation in our minds, we'll somehow figure out how to fix it. We think if we carry the weight of the world, it proves we're strong enough to handle it. We think if we keep our fists balled up, nothing else can break our hearts. But God didn't create you to live in a prison of your own grip. He created you to breathe, to flow, to be open to what He's doing in your life even when you don't understand it yet. And so He whispers to your spirit, let go, my child, let me have it. I know that sounds simple, but I also know it's one of the hardest things to do, because letting go means surrendering the illusion that we're in control. It means admitting that we don't have all the answers. It means trusting God with things that feel too tender, too painful, too messy to even speak out loud. But I came to tell you tonight, surrender is not weakness. Surrender is strength in its purest form. Surrender is saying, God, I don't know how to fix this, but I know you do. Surrender is saying, God, I'm tired of fighting battles I was never meant to fight alone. Surrender is saying, God, I'm placing this fear, this anger, this heartbreak in your hands. Because as long as your hands are full of what you're holding on to, you can't receive what God is trying to give you. Some of us have been praying for peace, but our hands are still gripping anxiety. Praying for joy, but our hands are wrapped around sorrow. Praying for new beginnings, but our hands won't let go of the past. God is saying, release it. Lay it at my feet. Let me heal you. Let me comfort you. Let me guide you. I remember seasons in my own life when I was so consumed with trying to figure everything out. I was analyzing, calculating, trying to predict every outcome. I thought if I could just plan enough, prepare enough, worry enough, I'd stay safe. But all it did was exhaust me. Until finally, I whispered through tears, God, I can't carry this anymore. And do you know what happened the moment I let go? Nothing outside me changed overnight, but something inside me shifted. Peace slipped into the spaces where panic used to live. Hope started to bloom in places I thought were dead, because I realized God doesn't always remove the storm right away, but He does promise to be with me in the middle of it. And that's why letting go is how you let God in. When you release your grip, you give Him room to move. You allow Him to take your sorrow and trade it for comfort. You allow Him to take your fear and turn it into courage. You allow him to take your confusion and replace it with clarity. So I want to ask you tonight, what are you holding on to that God is asking you to release? What burden have you been gripping so tightly that your hands have forgotten how to open? Because I promise you, if you'll dare to let go, you'll find that God is already there waiting to catch what falls from your hands and fill them with something far better than you could have imagined. That's how you let go, to let God in. Absolutely. Here's key point 3 expanded into 750 words, flowing seamlessly in the same speech style, with a warm, passionate, and vivid tone reminiscent of Sarah Jakes Roberts, but without naming her. No headings, just the natural rhythm of a spoken message, concluding with a strong closing line for impact. My friends, can I tell you something the enemy hopes you'll never discover? You are not your feelings. You are not your thoughts. You are not the storm that sometimes rages inside your own mind. But oh, how convincing those storms can be. See, negative feelings have a way of showing up like uninvited guests. They knock on the door of your heart, and before you know it, they're sitting on your couch, drinking your coffee and rearranging all your furniture. And some of us have been living with those guests for so long, we've started believing they belong there. We've started calling ourselves by their names. We say, I am anxious, I am depressed, I am angry, I am broken. But can I tell you the truth? Those feelings might be passing through, but they are not who you are. You're bigger than your emotions. You're deeper than your passing moods, and God sees you not as the storm, but as his child standing steady, even while the waves crash around you. But here's where we get trapped. We think we have to fight every negative feeling that rises up. We wrestle with our anger, trying to push it down. We argue with our sadness, demanding it explain itself. We try to run away from fear as if outrunning it will make it disappear. But the more we wrestle, the tighter those feelings grip us, because the battle we're fighting isn't just about emotions, it's about identity. We start thinking, if I feel this way, maybe this is who I am. But that's a lie from the pit of hell. You are not your feelings, you're the one watching your feelings. You're the one who can stand back, take a breath, and say, I'm noticing that sadness is here today. I'm noticing that fear is knocking. I'm noticing that anger is rising in my chest. Because when you observe your feelings instead of becoming them, they start to lose their power. I want you to picture your mind like a big, wide sky. And your thoughts, your feelings, they're just clouds passing through. Some days the sky is bright and clear, not a cloud in sight. Other days dark clouds gather and rain starts to fall. But hear me, my friend, the clouds are not the sky. The sky is always there, wide and open and untouched, and so are you. So when negative feelings show up, instead of fighting them, what if you just noticed them? What if you said, I see you, fear, but you don't define me. I feel you, sadness, but you're not the whole story. Because God gave you the ability to observe what's happening inside you without drowning in it. That's how you keep your peace even when your emotions are swirling. That's how you keep your faith even when your feelings are screaming the opposite. I remember a season when I was overwhelmed by anxiety. I would wake up with a tightness in my chest. My mind would race, telling me all the things that could go wrong. And for a long time I tried to fight it. I'd yell at it. I'd pray at it. I'd try to drown it out with noise and busyness. But nothing worked until one morning I sat still and whispered, God, I feel anxious today, but I know that's just a feeling. It's not who I am. And do you know what happened? The anxiety didn't magically disappear in an instant, but it loosened its grip, because naming it, noticing it, gave me power over it. It turned the monster in the dark into something I could face with God by my side. So many of us feel defeated because we think faith means we're never supposed to feel negative emotions. We think trusting God means we should always feel joyful, peaceful, unshakable. But that's not faith. That's denial. Faith is saying, I feel fear, but I'm choosing trust anyway. Faith is saying, I feel sadness, but I'm choosing hope anyway. Faith is knowing that emotions will come and go, but God stays the same. So I came to tell you tonight, you don't have to fight every feeling. You don't have to fix every mood. You can just notice it, name it, offer it up to God, and remember the clouds are not the sky. You are not your feelings. You are God's beloved child, steady and sure, even when storms try to roll through. And that's how you learn to observe your mind without judgment and keep your peace in the middle of the storm. Absolutely. Here's key point 4 expanded into 750 words, flowing in the same speech style, with a soulful, vivid, and encouraging cadence reminiscent of Sarah Jakes Roberts without mentioning her. No headings, just the natural rhythm of spoken word, concluding with a strong closing line for impact. My friends, there's something I've learned about starting your day with God. It's that it's not just about checking a box, saying a few words, and then rushing off into the noise of life. It's about alignment. It's about bringing your spirit back into sync with the one who created you before the world tries to pull you in 1,000 directions. See, every day the world is waiting to tell you who you are. It's waiting to tell you that you're not enough, that you're too much, that you're falling behind, that you'll never catch up. It's waiting to fill your mind with fear, your heart with doubt, and your spirit with exhaustion. And if you don't take time to center yourself in God first, the world will become your compass. But the world is a broken compass. It points every which way, shifting with trends, opinions, moods, and circumstances. One minute you feel on top of the world, and the next you're drowning in uncertainty. That's why starting your day with God through prayer, through stillness, through worship, isn't just a spiritual habit. It's survival. It's how you find true north in a world spinning in circles. Because prayer doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. It changes how you see. It changes how you hear. It changes how you carry yourself through whatever comes your way. I know some of us think prayer has to be this formal thing. We imagine we have to have all the right words, the perfect posture, the perfect scripture references. But God isn't impressed with performance. He's after your heart. He just wants you real, honest, raw, if that's where you're at. Some mornings, your prayer might be 3 words, God help me. Other mornings, it might be a shout of praise. Thank you for waking me up today. And some mornings, it's just sitting in silence, letting God speak in the spaces where words can't reach. Because silence is a language too. Sometimes it's in the hush of early morning that you hear God say, I'm with you. I'm for you. You're not alone. And those few moments of alignment can shift the entire atmosphere of your day. See, the enemy wants you to believe that negative feelings are facts. He wants you to believe that because you feel afraid, you must be in danger. Because you feel hopeless, your situation must be impossible. But when you start your day with God, you learn to separate truth from feeling. You learn to say, I feel anxious, but God says I have peace. I feel alone, but God says He will never leave me. I feel weak, but God says His strength is made perfect in my weakness. Prayer is where you remind yourself that your feelings don't get the final word, God does. It's where you bring your raw, trembling heart and lay it before the one who knows how to hold it together. And there's something so powerful that happens when you open up that space for God in the morning. Negative feelings start losing their grip. Your perspective changes. Suddenly, the problems that looked so big seem a little smaller in the light of His presence. Suddenly, you remember that you're not walking into this day alone. I remember times in my life when I woke up carrying heavy burdens. Seasons when I felt like the day was too much for me, and if I'm honest, there were mornings I didn't even want to pray because I was too tired, too frustrated, too numb. But even in those moments, I learned that sometimes the most powerful prayer is just showing up. It's saying, God, I'm here. I don't have the words. I don't even know what I'm feeling right now, but I'm giving you this moment. And somehow, even when nothing around me changed immediately, something inside me shifted. I found myself breathing deeper, standing taller, facing the day with courage I didn't know I had, because prayer is not about escaping your life. It's about inviting God into your life exactly as it is. It's about saying, Lord, come sit with me in this chaos. Come walk with me through this uncertainty. Come shine your light into my darkness. When you give God the start of your day, you're not promising that the day will be perfect, but you're deciding that no matter what comes, your soul will stay anchored. That's how you overcome negative feelings. That's how you keep your spirit aligned. That's how you remember who you are and whose you are.